Thank you very much for staying with Prime Edition. It is now time to switch gears to matters business. And tonight we want to discuss trade and why it is important that Kenya is hosting the 24th COMESA Summit. My name is Betty Kiptum. And I would like to have this conversation with the Principal Secretary in charge of Trade, that is Regina Ombam. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Betty.
Right. Kenya is hosting the 24th COMESA Summit, but it is not the first time that we are hosting this particular summit, right?
Right. You're right.
Tell us about the previous times.
Actually, this is actually the we'll be hosting the COMESA Summit. The third summit was held in Kenya. That was in 1999. And the 12th summit was also held in Kenya in 2007. So, as you know, COMESA is actually the common market for East and Southern Africa, a market that was actually set up as a regional economic bloc to foster trade and facilitate trade within the continent and beyond.
Right. So, COMESA has 21 member states. And just some statistics, 140 million people. That is a very... We are talking a GDP, gross domestic $1 trillion, and export of $383 billion. Are we doing enough to tap this market that exists?
If you look at it from where Africa is, having a regional economic bloc like COMESA is really a good thing in the move towards integration, because when you have a bigger market space, then with ease of doing trade, you're actually able to move goods and services within the region, and therefore trade becomes very effective in that case. At the same time also, you're able to increase your competitiveness because you have a bigger market share when it comes to trading. So when you look at the situation that we are in, when you trade as an economic bloc, it gives you more strength and comparative advantage in the trading market.
And so we are talking about COMESA as a regional bloc. There are other regional blocs on the continent, and we are all working towards achieving the free trade area, the AfCFTA. So tell us how this is supposed to correlate.
So principally, Betty, as you'll agree with me, we are really living in very unpredictable times. And we are actually seeing the global trade ecosystem has changed tremendously. The policy that America is using now is one that really gets one to realize that there's a push towards bilateral trade. And so if we don't diversify our trade, then we can actually become worse than where we are at the moment. So when we talk about this regional economic blocks, we are looking at a scenario where we are already seeing Africa as the future for trade. And therefore, Africa becomes a very big market in itself for trade. But we have to ask ourselves, how responsive is Africa? How ready is Africa for this future that is being talked about, Africa as a future for trade? And the best way that Africa can actually show that it is equally competitive is when Africa is actually able to trade very well among its nations. And so when you start off with strong regional economic blocs, because here is where you're talking about free trade movement, you're looking at non-tariff barriers, you're ensuring that, you know, movement of resources, of services, of goods is seamless, and it's consistent and it is efficient. And so if you're able to open up that market within Africa, then trading within Africa becomes even bigger, because as we speak now, intra-Africa trade is not very good. It's actually very low. And so if we can be able to expand that and make it more competitive, then we can actually even improve the livelihoods of the people of Africa, and the continent itself can prosper. Because the only way a people can develop is through trade.
Right. It is very important that people actually are able to trade together.
Precisely.
And so when you talk about challenges that is such as the tariff and non-tariff barriers that you've mentioned, there's the issue of harmonization of regulations across different countries in the bloc. And of course, Kenya cannot do business with a country that maybe does not want Kenya to do business with. So I'd like to hear from you what the role of governments is, especially in connection with the summit that is coming up. What kind of conversations will be had to ensure that these regulations and policies are harmonized across the bloc so that trade is enabled?
Thank you, Betty. I think that's a very good question, because you ask yourself, if you're coming from the African continent, and when you move from, say, Nairobi, and you go to, say, South Africa, and you stay in a hotel, and you eat the food there, nobody tells you that that food is really not fit for consumption. Mm-hmm. But you ask yourself, why is it then when you want to move your goods from, your food stuff from, say, Africa to South Africa, it becomes a very difficult thing in itself. And so we are basically looking at the whole COMESA summit coming in at a time when governments are also realizing they have a very critical role in enabling trade within the region. Because, as we always say, in as much as decisions could be done very well technically, the final say lies in a political decision. Mm-hmm. So when you look at the political economy and you look at what governments do, by creating an enabling environment, allowing for policies that are actually pro-trade, then that actually helps to open up markets and allow people to trade effectively. So governments come in very handily to create that enabling environment through policy direction, through ensuring peace and security, and ensuring that all these things are harmonized in a way that enables trade to happen. But when we have scenarios of where we have conflict, where we are insecure, where government policies are haphazard and are not clear around moving us towards that strategic direction, then it becomes very, very difficult for people to trade among themselves.
And are these conversations that you foresee happening next week during the summit? Precisely.
I see these conversations coming in at a time when we are also going to be the chair of COMESA as Kenya, and knowing who our president is in terms of really understanding the need for an integrated approach towards trade and development, and the push for a new Africa that is more outward looking and looking into the future. We're actually seeing conversations coming out. I'm already foreseeing very big conversations coming out towards trading for purposes of ensuring it's a solution, ensuring that trade is sustainable, and so even promoting products that are more aligned towards ensuring that there's consistency in trade, there's efficiency in trading, and that trade has an impact on the livelihoods of the people of Africa.
At the core of trade is movement. Movement of goods, movement of people. And we have, of course, seen our president being very proactive, opening up the visa regime, so to say, for Africans to come into the country. So I would like to hear from you what Kenya is looking to maybe front during this particular summit in terms of enhancing movement of people and goods. And also, we know that there's been an open sky policy for the longest time. Implementation has been lacking. I would just like to hear from you what you expect African heads of state, COMESA heads of state to be specific, to ensure that during this summit they're coming up with solutions to the challenges of movement.
I think one key thing that I see this summit focus on is around this Africa Continental Free Trade Area, because this is the next big thing for Africa. And so if we are able to think Africa and be able to think that everything we do around trade is Africa-centric, if there's any word like that, then the heads of state already have a vision around making Africa a competitive market in itself. And we are seeing already the heads of state talking about how trade has been unfair for the continent in terms of really the focus of Africa being looked at an area for just getting raw materials, and which are not really competitive out there. And so the heads of state are already thinking about value addition in whatever they are doing, expanding their industries, moving into supporting small, medium-scale enterprises, because this is where actually industrialization starts from. And also looking at, energy areas that are the green economy bit of it, and looking at that whole spectrum of trade from a sustainability point of view, and then ensuring that there's efficient transport, the ports are functioning, that we're able to open up our markets. I think just today, when we were celebrating the National Day for China, the Prime Cabinet Secretary categorically indicated that Kenya is even thinking of now doing the next SGR that gets to Kisumu and gets to Malaba. And when you look at that belt in itself, once we get to Malaba, it is going to open up Uganda and eventually Central Africa and West Africa. And that's how trade grows, because now people will be able to access the market very easily.
Right. I shall be asking you in a minute what the role of SMEs and Kenyans like myself is during this particular summit and how we can take advantage of that. But first, we want to take a quick break here on Prime Edition. When we come back, this conversation with the Trade Principal Secretary, Regina Ombam, continues. Do stay with us. Thank you for staying with Prime Edition. My name is Betty Kiptum, and in studio we are having a conversation on matters trade ahead of the 24th COMESA summit that is scheduled for next week from 7th to 9th here in Kenya. Kenya hosting that particular summit. And with me in studio is the Trade Principal Secretary. She is Regina Ombam. Asante sana for staying with us.
Thank you, Betty. Thank you.
Awesome. So COMESA, 21 countries. Coming here, delegates from those 21 countries, heads of state. What is the role of the small and medium enterprises, which are the backbone of the economy across the region, actually? What is their role?
So COMESA in itself is a big event for us, and it does not just culminate to the heads of state and government meeting, which happens on the 9th. But prior to that, we have a whole event on the 6th that is actually bringing together the horticultural sector together with the EU, called the EU Connect. And then we also have a whole business forum for the private sector to really come in and discuss what they think should be happening in that trade space. Then we have the foreign ministers of foreign affairs meeting before we get to the heads of state and government summit on the 9th. Between those days of 7th to 9th, we also have exhibitions just running through. And very interestingly, we have so many of these young upcoming entrepreneurs and small-scale entrepreneurs from all these 21 member countries who are really eager to come in and showcase, and they've already booked the many booths that they want to show what their products are like. And for me, these fairs are very good because they're actually a way of learning more about what other members are bringing to space, and also giving the small and medium scale enterprises an opportunity to interact and even get to learn how to improve whatever product they have, or even get a way of people understanding what they're producing, and it gets to open up the space for them. At the same time, I'm sure they'll not only be handling the exhibitions bit, but as delegates, they'll also be coming in and listening in some of these sessions that are really bringing to fore and focus what trade is all about, what are the new markets that we need to look at, what are the new products that we need to look at, and even getting them to understand what really qualifies for some of these products to be traded. Because we actually, in a world, as I said, where trade is no longer just saying, I'm Betty and I have this 50 pence. Trade is around, I'm Betty, I have this 50 pence, and I can consistently deliver this 50 pence in the next 10 years.
Right.
And I can do it efficiently, and there are products that are sustainable over time. So all those parameters are now being looked for in the trade ecosystem to allow a product to be seen as being competitive in that market. And these are some of the new things that we are seeing, these small micro enterprises, young people like you coming in and telling us, we are now providing solutions to trade, which is just exciting in itself.
Right, solutions, excuse me, solutions are very important. The theme of this particular summit, as I was looking this up, it's leveraging digitalization to deepen value chains for sustainable and inclusive growth. So the place of technology in growing trade across the region. That is definitely a place where the young people can plug into, right? Yeah, do tell us about that.
Yes, and as we all say, these young people are amazing. They are tech-savvy and they're really solution-oriented. I see it even in my own house when I talk to my young children. They'll always be saying, I'm doing this because I'm already seeing what it's going to bring out. So they are more outward looking. I think they are really using their eyes for what it was meant to be looking outwards. And so we are seeing the young people coming in with very great solutions around trade. As far as even trying to look at the port systems, how can we use technology to make delivery of goods and services very efficient? So making our ports very efficient so that there's no much time wasted around that. Even in the cross-border trade that you're doing, these are the young people are the ones really coming out with all these solutions of how quick can we have cargo moving along the road so that we don't have all these roadblocks. They're the ones who come with all these good ideas of once your goods have been checked at the port of Mombasa and they're on transit, you should not be stopped along the way because that good is already destined to a particular area and it needs to get there in a particular time. So we're already seeing them coming with all these solutions, even proposing to us all this, what we are talking about, the single window thing where you can go to one place and get everything done for you technologically without really asking for somebody to help you around to get your form to fill and all that. So we are saying that whole area of digital technology revolutionizing trade in a very smart way in itself. At the same time, we are also seeing them really getting us to understand how you can actually trade even online, you know, through the e-commerce systems and using all those digital technology to be able to trade from as far as you can. You're able to put in your product just on the internet and somebody can be able to buy that. These are solutions that are coming and making trade and business not look like something that you really have to go through a lot of rigors to get your stuff done. At the same time, we are seeing the young people really working towards ensuring that they give us platforms with all the information around where to source something from, where to get market for that, what is the price that you will get for something that you want. So there's a lot of information through technology that is allowing one to have a full knowledge and understanding of what they need to have when they're going into trade. And for me, that changes the whole thing of the fact that you do not have information, then you're not able to do what you need to do, compared to having that full information and being able to actually expand and think through. And to me, that is what I'm very excited about, the digitalization bit as our theme, and also just again stressing that we have a group of young people who are actually using their eyes for what it was meant to be, looking outwards when it comes to trade.
Right, and providing solutions.
And providing solutions.
Very important. COMESA or Kenya or Africa, we do not exist in a silo. We live on Earth. The global ecosystem exists. And of course, there are some challenges that have come up recently. There's the US reciprocal tariffs that have come up. I would like to hear from you what opportunity, so to say, this presents for a trade bloc like COMESA.
Thank you, Betty. I think this is a question where I've always been saying probably this reciprocal tariff thing is a good thing for us because it's now making us even look within ourselves and realize that we are not trading very much with ourselves, yet there's a lot of potential in terms of intra-trade with our fellow African countries. So this is actually getting us also to realize that we have to diversify our trade. We can't just depend on one trading partner.
Right.
So through things like the economic blocs, be it the East Africa Community, COMESA, the AFCFTA, we're actually realizing that we can even earn more by trading among ourselves than trying to look for markets outside. So first, getting everything right for us within our continent before we look out. And I would really like to share with you an interesting story, though these are just preliminary findings. There's some research my team was doing to find out what attracts many African people to visit Kenya and Nairobi in particular. And to them, Nairobi is the London of Africa. So they come to Nairobi, and they love coming to Nairobi because of the restaurants that we have, and Kenya in totality, including even the shopping malls that they go to. So when they come to shop in Nairobi, they feel they're actually shopping in London. So we are getting many tourists coming from Africa into Kenya because of the things that the openness that we've allowed our country to be like, and this is bringing to us a lot of foreign exchange earnings in themselves. Something that maybe for a long time we were thinking that the earnings that we get from tourists from abroad, say Europe, is what we really need to capitalize on. But this study is actually showing that we are getting much more from the tourists who come from within Africa because they really love coming to Kenya. What does this tell you? It tells you that we have a huge potential. If we are able to actually trade among ourselves, then even our earnings can be really much higher, because we are now, there's ease around doing that business. So if we work on things of cost of transport, if we work on things of cost of production in terms of the enablers, looking at the power, the roads, and the infrastructure that we have in place as a continent, I think we can grow and be the next big thing that everybody is talking about. Let's scale this down to Kenya just for a little bit. You have mentioned the issue of production cost being high. We know that manufacturers have been complaining year in, year out about how competitiveness of our products, Kenyan-made products, is affected even in the region because of our high production costs. So sitting in the State Department for Trade, what are you doing to ensure that we are solving these challenges and just ensuring that as our products go out there, they can compete? Thank you, Betty. I think that's a very tough one. But I look at it from the point of view that the cost of production, it is not just one item. It's a culmination of quite a number of factors that end up being the cost of production. So if we are able to work on our infrastructure, see our roads are efficient, our waterways are good, our railway network is good, then it saves a lot in terms of even the cost of production, because the producer will add on this cost because of the limitations they're getting when it comes to infrastructure. When it comes to power, if we are able the government is really pushing the whole issue of alternative sources of energy, you know, pushing for solar power and nuclear power and all these other alternative sources of energy, so that we don't just rely on hydropower. And that then also helps in terms of energy saving. And these are some of the solutions that you look at in terms of ensuring that things are working out right in the business space. The enabling environment from a legislative perspective, the enabling environment from even people understanding, you know, when you want to invest, when you want to start your business, there's this one-stop shop that you can go to and get everything at a go. So you have full information, and with that, with all these initiatives that you're putting across, eventually you will see the cost of production going down. And then with digitalization and all this, if we can actually make Kenya that silicon savannah that we are talking about, it is just going to be transformative in itself, because it's going to change the way we do business with all these enablers, and then be able to actually get the cost of production going down. There are some soft things that we overlook, things like peace and security, which we take for granted. And these are actually things that also ensure that doing business is actually okay, and therefore also helps in ensuring that the cost of production goes down substantially.
Right. So as we come to a close of this conversation, I'd like you to give your final remarks and give us an overview of what to expect next week at the COMESA Summit.
Thank you, Betty. I think what I would like to ask Kenyans is to really register so that they participate in this summit. This is a summit that is coming at a time when everybody in the African continent should actually be rethinking trade, given what what is being signaled in the global trade ecosystem. So we have an opportunity now to come together as an economic bloc to rethink how integration is happening, how we are harmonizing all the trade systems that we have within the continent to just allow for a trade mechanism that is free, that is consistent, that is efficient, and that is actually sustainable over time. So I think we have an opportunity through this COMESA Summit and through our heads of state and government to actually propel the trade agenda in the region, not only for now, but even for the future.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And thank you for speaking to us about trade in the region.
Thank you very much.
Asante sana. I have been speaking with Regina Ombam. She is the Principal Secretary in charge of trade, talking about what to expect in the 24th COMESA Summit that is scheduled to start next week from 6th to 9th. And Kenya is, of course, proud to be hosting that particular summit for the third time. And it shall also be assuming the rotating chair of the COMESA. So we shall be looking forward to covering that and letting you know what happens during that particular summit. We want to take a quick break. When we come back, more business news. Do stay with us.